Do we have anyone online today?
No.
Okay, well then, no introductions necessary. We're going to move on to approving the agenda. I did have one request for an added item, and that's for library card sign-up registration. So if I could hear a motion with that as an added item.
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to input from online libraries elected representatives. Do we have any input today? Hearing none. We'll move on to the technology project report. Donovan? Did I go too fast for you?
No, okay. That's okay. I thought we missed something, but we didn't, and I should have known better than to doubt you. Okay.
Right.
All right. For some reason, what I'm doing is not showing up on the screen.
This happened yesterday for Tuesday.
That's what I was hearing about.
For Michael as well.
1 sec. I think I might know what it is. Whoa.
Yeah, it looks slow.
There you go.
Oh, sorry, I was going to do some elevator music.
All right. Okay, so
Just because you're a short timer, just stop me.
I was filling the
agenda.
I was filling the void.
the fall 2014 cooperative technology purchase is in progress. We sent out the order forms on October 3rd, and those orders are due back on the 31st. So there's not much more to do until that comes back. We are almost done with the very lengthy Pharos upgrade project. We've been going slow on this deliberately because the upgrades, frankly, are not all that critical or all that urgent. So we've been taking our sweet time on them. At this point, we have 19 out of 22 completed. We're trying to bundle those with other trips wherever possible, and that's part of the reason we're just sort of poking along. Nonetheless, I'll be glad when it's done so we can quit talking about it. This is the last slide you'll see on migrating WordPress to the cloud because that project is complete. All 33 sites are moved, and we have ironed out the many problems that sites experience, mostly due to themes that had to be tweaked or upgraded for the host. They use a newer version of WordPress than we do, and there were a lot of themes out there that had not been updated to work with the new version of WordPress. So in some cases we were able to tweak things with the library. In other cases we worked with them to find a similar theme that was in compliance. But that's done. You will not be seeing that one again. The Rooms Committee had their second meeting on September 30th. It was a rousing success. Everybody got to sit in the training lab, and we all got our hands-on training, including me, who had forgotten pretty much everything I was trained in a year ago on how to create rooms. Everybody got to create a room. Those are not necessarily all ready for prime time, but they're being polished. And everybody took at least one other room as their homework assignment to get started on. At the first meeting, the group had done a lot of brainstorming on good rooms to create, and so at this meeting we pulled that list back out and people started volunteering. Certainly we did not allocate every single room on that list, but everyone's got at least one to work on. Our next meeting will be later on this month or in early November. It's been left kind of open. That will be an optional workday. It will just be for anyone on the group who wants to come in and work together in a collaborative kind of way. Some people like that. Some people don't. If they'd rather stay at home and just work on their own time, that is fine too. So we are moving forward.
Donovan, I have a question on that. Is that kind of like, constant contact or mailship or something? I mean, do you track the clicks that you get through those rooms at all?
No, unfortunately, Enterprise doesn't give us any way to track that. We do have Google Analytics installed, but we are just beginning to explore what that can do for us, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get any data from that or not.
Okay.
I know it's out there as an enhancement request for Cersei Dynex. We're not the only ones who have thought about that. This is another slide that you won't be seeing again. We have finished replacing our blade array and servers. All the virtual servers have been migrated to the new blades, and this project is complete. Hooray. Which means now we can start this project, which has been kind of hanging out, waiting for us to finish the blade installation, which is now we can start installing the next version of Citrix. Our existing version is approaching end of life. That will be happening in 2015, so we need to go ahead and move on. This is a pretty major project. We're not going to try and migrate in place. We're going to build a completely new Citrix farm. We've learned the hard way not to try and migrate from one version to another. It's a lot easier just to create from scratch if you have the capacity to do that. And with the SAN that we purchased 2 years ago and the new blade array, we do have that capacity. So we are getting started on that now. Yeah.
That's a new word for me, instance.
Instance.
What's that?
Just the existing farm.
Okay.
Usually it refers to a specific version.
Okay.
So we're going to eliminate our current version and put in a new one. So Gina is taking the lead on that. Another one that is complete of an LSTA project, Community School Media Centers as online partners. Red Wing High School went live on September 10th, and things are going pretty well.
One caveat there,
they are complete in that they are up and running.
That's true.
We are not complete from a grant perspective because we had promised that we were going to do mid-year and end of school year evaluation. And so the project is actually still open as far as the Minnesota Department of Education. So you won't see that slide again before, but for those of you who attend other meetings and you hear us talking about the Red Wing project later, they're up, they're running, they're happy. We still have some grant-related tasks. Take care of.
That's right.
Pardon?
Is that for Michael to complete? Or?
No, Michael will not be doing that. Cheryl's been working on that project with the high school.
I was just going to say, hurry up. Right.
Actually, I'm taking over the lead on the LSTA Managed team, and I have it on my to-do list that sometime in December, Cheryl and Becky and I are going to run the first set of reports that will be due to MDE in January, and then they'll do another set of reports that we will submit to MDE in June.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Nope, not Michael, me.
That's a good point. I was focused on the technology aspects of it, but there are more administrative tasks yet to be done.
Yeah, water money.
Yeah. Wait, that little minor detail again. Right.
The other major LSTA project going on right now, the data-driven collection development project, is still in progress. The training for our pilot libraries is going on now. We are working with Collection HQ to refine their reports. I think, as far as I know, Cheryl, correct me if I'm wrong, we are the first federated consortia of non-huge libraries that they have ever had to deal with.
Wow.
And in fact, I think it might even be safe to say we're the first federated consortia of any size libraries they've ever dealt with. Most of their customers have been large libraries with many, many branches. You know, Phoenix Public or New York Public Library, things like that. So their reports are very good and very useful, but they don't quite fit the way our world operates. And so we're working with Collection HQ on that. You look like you have something to say, Cheryl.
No. About all my emails back and forth.
There's a lot of work involved.
Is it going to be cool?
Absolutely. It already is. It's just going to be a lot more cool.
I think James and Monica should jump in since you were so enthusiastic on Tuesday.
It's cool. There's a lot of stuff that you can do report-wise and find out,
all the way down to apportioning your budget, your collection budget, and how well your apportioning matches up with reality. And I'm a little overwhelmed at this point because there's so much. And she goes, and I'm going, how did you get there again? So, but it's nice because they record everything, and I can go back and watch it again, and it's really exciting.
I'm over the moon about this, so I think it's great. Collection development with this particular tool is, I think, the best feature.
Have you done anything yet?
I pay no attention because I have staff. I do know that Bonnie's been withdrawing grubbies, things that have circulated so many times, you know, you got to take a look at them. And she told me just the other day that she's thrilled by it, and I said, oh, okay. Great.
That's pretty high praise for Bonnie.
Yeah.
Pretty much anybody, I'd say, thrilled.
And then on a separate but parallel track, the registrations are in for the upcoming collection development workshop, and we're all very excited about that. Online library switch replacement. A lot's happened since I put this slide together last week. I did not have numbers at the time, but I've been informed since that project is complete. So we have replaced switches at about a quarter of our libraries, and we'll be doing the other 75% over the following 3 years. Our goal is to get into a 4-year replacement cycle for switches.
What brand are you using?
I would have to go back and check. I think Allied Telesis, if I remember right. There have been a few issues at a couple of libraries, mostly having to do with net tops, where the network card is not, pet nods, where the network cards are not communicating very well with the switches, so we're still working on that. In those cases, we put old switches back into place just to keep things running while we work with the vendors to figure out what's going on.
Cisco, what was it?
Not for the library switches. We use a lot of Cisco equipment here in our server room, including Cisco routers and switches. But for the libraries, we generally use other brands. So that is basically done other than troubleshooting a few last-minute issues. And we're optimistic we'll get that. We just need to work with the vendor to figure out why these particular network cards are not talking to the switches properly. There's also been some more specialized equipment at other libraries, camera systems and such, that have also not worked. We don't generally support those, so we weren't quite prepared for that. We've done the same workaround in those cases, just plugged it back into the old switches, and we'll work with those vendors to figure out why their equipment's not talking to the switch. Online library router upgrades are also in progress. Our goal is to replace the routers at half the libraries by the end of this year. I also do not have numbers on that right now, but my understanding is that we're well along the way to having that finished and should have no trouble meeting that deadline. The other half will be replaced in the following fiscal year. And these are the devices that have the built-in Wi-Fi that we talked about a couple of meetings ago. The OCLC reclamation is still going on. 5 more libraries have been reclaimed. We're continuing to work through unresolved files at those libraries, and we're continuing to see progress as these files keep getting smaller and smaller. And we're continuing to work with those libraries who have not yet completed their inventory. We're down to just a bare handful. So we're working with them to try and get something scheduled. Cheryl, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think we're okay. Looking up where Brad was on the process. Sorry, you just asked me.
Oh, okay.
What did you say?
I just asked if there was anything you wanted to add, because I'm a little more at a disadvantage on this project than some of the other ones.
Just for anyone who maybe didn't see your earlier message about our disappointing news about book pickup.
Oh, yeah, the weeded books. I don't know if you guys saw that. They kind of gave us the last-minute notification that they were rethinking their procedure. It wasn't cost-effective for them to continue to
pick up books and pull them. But, so then I sent out the email. I hope you all saw it right away. It has been a really good and well-used service. Donovan is the one who said a couple times it's not sexy, but it is an important service, so I am trying to look for an alternative, or not me, actually, Becky and Cindy and Christy are working on that. So trying to find some alternatives. We've contacted the company that we worked with, Better Futures Minnesota, and asked them who they were delivering the books to, see if we could cut out the middleman and go straight to the source, and then look for some other options too. We just don't have the answers right now, and it was kind of all of a sudden. So, yeah, thanks, Ann. I forgot about
So, and we have about 600 boxes in the garage.
Yeah.
They just said, no, we're not coming. So we're trying to tell them, you have to take what we collected because they were already here when you informed them. So we'll
working on it.
yeah. It really was that sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Thursday before the book's out. Thanks.
Sorry.
I know.
No, we really didn't plan it that way. Cheryl and I got up in the morning and said, we want Austin to suffer.
It was
very sudden.
Does result.
And unfortunate.
Catholic Public Library, as you probably know, has broken ground for their new building, and they are at the phase of the project where they're starting to make lots of final decisions. So we are working with them to provide input, and eventually we will help them out with their move. Several of us went out there this morning and met with our TIP, the director, and discussed their networking and internet service, their PCs and related equipment, where that equipment is to be positioned in the library, how they should do network drops and power. They have some of that from their architect already, but we were able to provide some input based on our experience with other libraries that have moved recently. We
never have enough drops.
That's kind of what we told them. When in doubt, put a power outlet and a network drop there. That was kind of what the message boiled down to. We also had to discuss placement of Wi-Fi and a lot of other questions like that. And we talked about how we will eventually configure Horizon to accommodate their move. There will be some days they're closed. There may be some days where they're open, but they don't want to take delivery or handle requests. There's a lot of possibilities, and it's still too early to start figuring any of that out, but we wanted them to at least get that on their radar so they'd be thinking about it. Art's goal is to have the new library open on June 1st, 2015. He doesn't think he's going to make it at this point.
Is the construction manager?
He was planning to meet with the construction company this afternoon after our meeting. So presumably something's coming out of that. So there's not much for us to do at this point. We gave them most of the input that we have to offer right now, but there will be presumably more meetings as we go through the process, and we'll basically help out however we can. And when the time comes, of course, we'll be moving their network equipment and PCs and things like that. We are working on customizing and automating our notices. There's an entire agenda item about that, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. And likewise, we are preparing to offer an ebook collection for school media centers, and that has its own agenda item, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And that is it. Questions or comments?
Okay. Thanks, Donovan. Michael Scott is going to talk about strategic and technology planning.
Okay. I'll keep this fairly brief, but I just wanted to sort of give an update as to where we are. Some of the items on the agenda, particularly with the notices, are reflected from the strategic plan. So in case you didn't know it, we actually do have a new plan. It started this fiscal year. We are now in quarter 2 of fiscal year 2015, which is the first year of the plan. And the staff, we've got a staff group of about 8 that have met on a monthly basis to sort of go through the implementation plan. We did some ranking of the when we started this project in July, of the various tactics that are a part of the larger implementation plan, and we really did focus in on those specific tactics in the strategic plan that we wanted to work on in this quarter. So there's a lot of them, and we, of course, are not working on each and every tactic necessarily with the most focus, but specifically for some of the, and so there are quite a number of tactics related to sort of the technology end of the strategic plan that have had some work done on them. The notices in particular is one of the areas that had was spotlighted this quarter, and so they're going to give you an update on sort of where things are with the notice production. And work continues on things like doing horizon configurations and looking at things that are considered value-added services and figuring out, are they still value-added? Do they need to move into basic service? That kind of thing, to make sure that the information is there. So some work certainly is going on. Donovan mentioned in his report, some of the network and systems infrastructure upgrades. So that's an ongoing tactic. I look here, and the timeline is years 1 through 4. So even though there are pieces that he said you're not going to hear about anymore, this is something that will continue on. And then the other, so there are, and then one of the other pieces that is sort of kind of related to the technology goal, which is the goal is to expand the capacity of SELCO and SELS libraries, with some information on exploring ebook providers and options. And so when I'm done talking about this, I'll talk to you a little bit about what we've done there. The strategic plan, as we pointed out towards the as we got into this process, there's a dashboard. And if you go to the plan page, there's page 4 of the strategic plan. There is an updated dashboard, updated as of September 30th. So, and it is no lie. It does show that everything is still in the green moving ahead column, because we really haven't fallen behind. We aren't concerned about so there it is right there. And so there's a document there you can certainly take a look at. There are the lovely red, yellow, and green. At this point, we really are, we really feel that under all of those goals and then each of those strategies, that we really are still on track. It's a little bit difficult to get off track in your the first quarter or the first year of your plan. If you are, then you might want to think about a new plan or something. So anyway, that's a few other things. So something that is coming up in December, both of the SELCO and the SELS advisory committees are going to actually join together and have a facilitated discussion with Sue Hall from Library Strategies. They were the consultant that we used to help us develop this plan. That fulfills one of the, that was part of the strategic plan under goal number, I have to find it, I believe it is goal number 2, foster innovation and collaboration within SELCO and SELS. So that date has been set. The Strategic Planning Committee, which is a board committee, last year we actually modified that group because we were, of course, undertaking a new strategic plan, and so we had a number of folks from our member libraries that were a part of that committee. Well, Robin Yaffe-Shumper, who is our board president, wanted to sort of keep that the spirit of that group going, and so we now have on that particular committee there are 3 members from the 3 library staff from member libraries, and so from public libraries, Delane James and Morgan Hansen are on that. They, of course, represent public libraries. And then Rachel Thomas, who is actually on the the SELS Advisory Committee. She is on staff at St. Mary's of Minnesota, that particular library. She is the sort of the SELS advisory representative. And so they are planning to have their first meeting in January as a committee of the whole to sort of prepare something for the board meeting at the end of January. Did I say January? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. All of a sudden I thought I said July, and I was like, no, well. The goal for that group is to actually meet on sort of a semi-annual basis, probably twice a year, to review the plan, review the work that's been done, and be able to then report to the board of directors.
So the board in this group for participation, or how did it?
Yes, they did. Mm-hmm.
The appointment was by the president.
Yes. So we had asked for volunteers from the SELCO Advisory and from the SELS Advisory, and so we put forward some names, and Morgan and Elaine were the names that were chosen. They had also served in the previous year on the extended committee, so I think there was, that was nice that there was sort of a nice tie-in there. So I'm not sure how often that committee composition will change, but that's how that committee was set up. So any questions on strategic plan? All right, very good. Well, I wish you well in your strategic plan.
Don't be so good.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Do this report one more time.
Right, exactly.